Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ranjeeta Soni, Faculty of Environmental Science, Jagan Nath University, Jaipur. One more presentation, actually I have discussed about some environmental acts for the safety of environment and their conservation, like Air Pollution Control Act and Water Prevention Acts. But in this presentation we will discuss about some environmental legislations in India. Basically, the legislation means some laws or acts which will be made for the environmental safety and conservations. So, when we talk about some environmental legislations, it is related for the protection of all factors of the environment. Laws were formed and amended from the time to time as per the requirement. There are many acts according to the main factors, separate laws for the enforcement also. There are some control acts which can be implemented by states for the local environmental problems. Basically, by the help of government and the authority of Central Board, Central Pollution Control Board, the all acts will be basically set by all the powers and rules and functions. But at the state level, some another board which are under Central Board, the state agencies will basically act on these kinds of laws or legislations. Some acts which is related for the environment or environmental related activities, these common acts are like Wildlife Protection Act for the safety of wildlife and Water Prevention Control Act in 1974, Forest Act for the safety of conservation of forests, natural areas, then again for air safety and prevention of air pollution control Act 1981. Now one more act which is related and we will discuss in this presentation, that is Environmental Protection Act 1986, and we can say in short EPA Act. Then one more act which is related with the environment, the Biological Diversity Act. It is made in 2002. Then Noise Pollution Control Act again in 2000. So there are some common acts. But when we talk about the Environmental Protection Act EPA, so the main objective of this act is to protect and improve the environment and environmental conditions. It is also implements the decision made by the UN conference. Basically this act made in 1986, Environmental Protection Act 1986, by the help of United Nations. So in the conference of United Nations on Human and Environment, basically it was held at Stockholm in the year 1972. So in this act to take strict action against all those who harm the environment. That is, we can say in this act we have to cover up all the major issues of the environment. And the basic aims and objectives of this EPA Act, the chief aims and objective of the Environmental Protection Act 1986 are basically listed: implementing the decision made at the United Nations Conference on Human Health at Stockholm basically, and creation of a government authority to regulate industries that can issue direct orders including closure orders, and coordinating activities of different agencies that are operating under the existing laws. Now some another aims and objectives, like if enacting regular laws for the protection of environment, imposing punishment and penalties. This is a main part of any act or legislation on those who endanger the environment, safety and health. For each failure of or contraventions on basically punishment includes a prison term of up to 5 years or a fine of up to rupees 1 lakh or both. This can also be extended for up to 7 years in cases. So basically this is a minimum kind of punishment, whether in case of found in any offense related with the offense related violation of any kind of act. So minimum 5 years of imprisonment and 1 lakh rupees fine, and it can be extended up to the depends on the offense. So engaging the sustainable development for the environment, attaining protection of right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. This is a major part of the Constitution, Article 21, which is related to the environmental protections. So here we discuss about some main provisions of Environmental Protection Act. Here I want to share one more thing related with the Environmental Protection Act. Basically 27 principles in this act, and these all 27 principles relates with the environment, nature, the natural resources conservation, to minimize the pollution, maintaining the ecological balance. So we can just point out some major points, or we can say the summary of EPA Act. So EPA empowers the center to take all the measures to deems necessary in the domains of environmental protections, and under this law it can coordinate and execute nationwide programs and plans to further environmental protection. That means the major aim of this act to maintain the environmental protection and conservation. It can mandate environmental quality standards, particularly those concerning the emission or discharge of environmental pollutants. This law can impose restriction on the location of industries, because everyone knows this is a major cause or sources of the pollution. Then the laws gives the government the power of entry for the examination, testing of equipment and other purposes, and power to analyze a sample of air, water, soil, etc. So basically Environmental Protection Acts explicitly bars the discharge of environmental pollutants in excess of prescribed regulatory standards, which usually set by the Central Pollution Control Board and under WHO or ICI or ICMR, etc. and for the air quality emission standards, NOx or NSPS, etc. So there is also a specific provision for handling hazardous substances, which is prohibited unless in compliance with regulatory requirement, and it is basically the Basel Convention, which is based on the transboundary movement of the hazardous waste. The act empowers any person apart from authorized government officers to file a complaint in a court regarding any contravention of the provision of the act. Now basically here we can focus with some summary points of EPA Act. The Environmental Protection Act 1986, which provides for the protection and improvement of the environment, or we can say the betterment of environment. The EPA Act basically established an framework for the studying, planning and implementing long-term requirements of environmental safety and laying down a system of speedy and inadequate response to situations basically which are threatening to the environment. So it is a kind of umbrella. This act is kind of umbrella which can cover or measure or stop, we can say protect to various kinds of issues. So we can say this umbrella legislation designed to provide a framework for the coordinations of central and state pollution control boards, or we can say authorities, like if you talk about the Water Act in 1974 and similarly Air Act 1980. The term environment is understood in a very wide term, which is given in under section 2A of the Environmental Act. It includes water, air and land, as well as the interrelationship which exists between water, air and land, we can say soil also, and human beings, other living creatures, plants, microorganisms and property. So that means all natural sources with the interaction with the part of biodiversity given in this act. Under the Environmental Protection Act, the central government, which is CPCB regulatory, is empowered to take measures necessary to protect and improve the quality of environment by setting standards and emission and discharges of pollution in atmosphere of any person carrying on an industry or individually by any activity. So regulating the location of industries where management of hazardous and some other kinds of waste and protection of public health and welfares. From time to time, the central government issues notifications under the Environmental Act and protection of ecologically sensitive areas or issues guidelines for matters under the Act. The Act was basically last amended in 1991. So in 1986 it was basically found, and after some years in 1991 it was again amended. So according to this act, the air pollution defined about which kind of sources can pollute the atmosphere. Now some rules lay down procedure for setting standards of emission of discharge of environmental pollutants also, and the objective of hazardous waste, which is related with the management and handling rules 1989. So it's to control the generation, collection and treatment with their import, their storage and handling of hazardous waste. Apart from these, we can also discuss in this act about the manufacture, storage and import of hazardous rules, defines terms used in this context, and set up an authority to inspect 1 year. That means it is a part of audit. The industrial activity connected with hazardous chemical and isolated storage facility also, and some manufacturer use, import and export and storage of hazardous microorganisms genetically engineered, that means which is related with the organisms or cell rule 1989, were introduced with a view protect of environment, nature and health in connection with the application of gene technologies and microorganisms. The Parliament enacted this act for the prevention and control of air in 1981 to arrest the deterioration in the air quality. That means we can say in this act we can cover up all kinds of basic sources which affect on the environment due to their qualities, disturbance. So thank you so much.